Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Now today we're going to be doing the second episode of how to build a Roblox simulator. So today we're going to be going over, basically we're going to be creating the weight that you hold, and when you click it, it gives you the cash. And also as the added bonus, and to make this video longer, I will make we'll make a leveling system with levels where you have XP, and when you get to like a certain XP, it gives you a level, and your XP resets back down to 0. So let's get started, shall we? So basically, let's start off by getting a weight. So I'm not going to build one, I'm going to get one at the toolbox, and let's just pick this one out, and let's remove this local script. And then now we have our weight, and it is actually a tool that we can bring into the starter pack, and we should see that when we play this game, we'll hold it in our hands, just like this. Yeah, okay, perfect. Now what we want to do is we want to add a local script into this. So basically we want to actually, inside of this, make the detection to whether you're clicking it or not, and then we want to fire a remote event. So let's just prepare everything. So we need a remote event, like I said, so that you can you can send a message from the weight, from the local script, from the client to the server. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it so that when you click, it will fire a remote event, and then in the server, in that script with the leader stats, it's going to say if this remote event is fired, then do this, then add cash, add cash to the player. So where you put a remote event is you put it in replicated storage. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to grab this, and let's do a remote event, and let's click on this, and then I'm going to name it add cash. And then now I can come in here and let's find it first. So I'm going to straight ahead just go find it. So let's do local event equals, and then we want to find it, so let's do game.replicated storage dot add cache. So now that we have it, that's the event, and now we can actually start working on detecting whether the player is holding it or not. So let's come into here and let's set some variables first. So I'm going to do local players equals game get service and players. So I'm going to get the service of players. Basically, this is how Roblox writes it, so that's why I'm showing it to you, because this is how, if you were to go into the developer.roblox.com website, you would see it be written out like this. So that's what I'm going to write it like for you. So I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do local player. So let's start another variable, and let's do players. So local script, local player. So basically what we are doing is we are grabbing all the players, and we are getting the local player. So the player that is, or like whatever script this is running. So if I was to do local player.name and I was to print it out, it would show me, it would print out my username, because I'm the one who can see this. It's basically saying the local player. So once we got the variable set down, what we need to do is we need to get the weight first. So we need to get the tool. So let's do script.parent. So basically now we have referenced the weight, and then we want to do equipped, not enabled, equipped, and then we want to connect to that and add a function just like this. And just like with the leader stats, we are saying when the script.parent is equipped, run this function. So when the player is holding the weight, play this event. So run this function. So I'm going to reference it again. So if script.parent is enabled, not enabled, equipped, if it is equipped, then, so just doing it one more time, and then now we can start getting the player's mouse to detect whether they click it or not. So whether they click, whether they clicked, so that we know when to add the cache, otherwise it would just be gradually building up. So let's do player. So with the local player, let's get their mouse. And let's say when there's the button 1 is down, then connect to that. Just like that. So now we are saying when the player, basically we're getting the player's mouse, and we are saying when somebody clicks down left click, which is button 1 on mouse button 1, we want to connect to that and we want to run the function. So just like this. And then now we can fire the server, so fire the event. So let's do event, because we created a variable up here, remember? And we can do event : fire server. Okay, so now that is the local side, so that is the client side. Now we can come over to the script that we wrote in the last episode, the leader stat script, and we can start creating the actual firing event. So saying if this is fired, then do this. So what I'm going to do is I'm first going to find it. So I'm going to do game.replicatedStorage.cache add cache, sorry. And we want to do .on server event. So when it fires, when it happens, so when we are firing that event. And then I'm going to do player in here. And then now we can actually do the adding cache. So we can actually make the adding cache function, basically. So what we're going to want to do is player player.leaderstats .cache.value equals, and then if we were to do this and we were just to do 1, that would mean every time you clicked it, it would just reset it to 1. So even if you're at 100, it would bring you back to 1. So we don't want that. But then if you notice, when you click plus, when you do this, you can see it's telling you no. So the way to add it is we need to repeat it again after the equals. So we need to do player.leaderstats.cache.value plus 1. So now we can use the plus and it will actually run. So now you'll see if I come into the game now and I click and I bring out my weight, you should see that I click and there you go. You see my cache is going up and I can now click and you can see I'm getting more cache and more cache every time I click with my weight. So now I'm going to add the leveling system. So since we got the weights done, I'm going to run the leveling system. So let's get started with that, shall we? So I'm going to create these as leader stats, and I'm basically going to do XP, and I'm going to do levels. So just like cache, I'm going to create a variable. I'm going to name it XP, and I'm going to do instance. Well, that is a long one. We don't want that. Instance.new. There it is, instance.new, and then we want to create a int value, same as this, and we want to give it the parent of the leader stats folder. And then we want to do xp.name equals xp, and xp.value equals 0, and then I'll work on the data store in a minute. But for now, let's just create the level as well. So do the same thing, instance.new, and do an int value, give it the parent of the leader stats folder, and name it, let's name it level.name, let's name it level, and level.value, let's give it 0. Okay, so now once we got this, we need to create data stores for it so that I can actually save. So just like the last time, we're going to need to create a new data store up here. So I'm going to actually rename this to cache data store. Actually, no, let's keep this the same just to make it simple. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste it twice. And then I'm going to name the first one XP data store, and I'm going to name the second one level data store. And then now over here, I'm going to rename this to XP data store, and this one over here to level data store. And then now we need to save these down here. So let's copy this and let's make that twice. And let's do XP and let's do level down here, just like that. And then now we want to get the player's XP.value, and then we want to do the player's level, and just like that. And then now we need to do the same thing with this, doing the XP.value, so repeating it a second time, and doing XP data store, and then doing the get async, which is if you remember from the last video, grabbing the data, and then like we did down here, set async is setting the data. So now we're going to do the same on this. So level dot value equals level data store get async. So we're getting the data again and putting it to the player's user ID. Okay, so now that we've got this, it should still be running the same, and let's just check for errors. Every time I write something big or something meaningful, I always check for errors. But as you can see now, we have the cache, we have the XP, and we have the level. So the level, we don't actually want it to start at 0, we want to start it at 1, so you start with level 1 instead of level 0. But now we need to actually work on the adding of the XP, and then once we do that, we want to do the adding of the levels when you get to a certain amount of XP. So I'm going to create a add XP remote function. So let's come over here and let's do add, and let's do XP. And then let's come back into the wait, and just like we did with the add cache, let's create another one but for the add XP. So I'm going to do XP event and game.replicated storage, and let's find it. So game.replicated storage and add XP. And then now we can come down here and do XP event fire server, and then now we can come back over to our leader stats script, and we can copy this. We can paste this, so we can do it over again, and we can come to the add, and we can do add XP, and then we can come down here to the XP, and come down here to the XP, just like this. And I'm going to actually change this to add 2, because it makes it easier for us to see the difference, because it's kind of weird seeing them both growing at the exact same rate. And also, you saw me then publish it. I always publish my games after I do any code editing, because you really don't want to have written like some huge, long bits of code, and then it just to be completely deleted and completely disappear because you've got to save it. I mean, that is the worst feeling ever. You have to repeat it all. So remember to save. But anyway, now that we have this, we should see that when I come into the game, it should add XP the same as it does when it adds cash. So there you go. You see I'm getting 1 XP, and then now I'm getting 2 cash. So now what we want to do is we want to make it so that it actually adds to, actually gives us, the, it actually gives us the level. So I just noticed actually that when I joined into the game then, because I had the data store on at the beginning, it's saved to 0. So it's gone to 0, level 0, because that was what it's saved as when I created the data store. So I'm going to need to change that actually in the game, but I'll change that in a minute after you guys, I'll do it when you guys can't see it in a cut. But Now, let's actually get to work with that system. So I'm going to head down here before the player removing. For some reason, when I'm always creating data stores, or I'm always creating leader stats with data stores, I always put the playing removing at the end because I feel like that's where the code ends. But anyway, let's get to work with this. So we're going to want to do another player added event so that we can actually do the player, because in a server script you can't do game.players you can't do game.players.local player. It doesn't work, and that's because we're not on the client, so we're not grabbing the player because the code is running on that client on the player, which means we can find the username. We just can't, because otherwise, if we were to do that, we'd be grabbing every single player's name, and that would just be not working, because then that wouldn't be local. So to do this, we need to do a player added event. So we need to grab the player's name or the player's details from a player added event. So let's do the same. Do player dot players dot player added. So we're taking the player added event and we're connecting a function to it, so that it runs the function when a player is added. And now what we want to do is we want to add a little weight here, and I'm going to do 0.1. And then now we can start creating some variables. So make it easier for the code to make it easier for the code to run. So first of all, let's just grab the level, because we're going to need to reference the level a lot. So let's do levels, and then let's do player. Oh, I've got to get the player here. Let's do player there. Player :weight for child, and let's grab the leader stats. So you're probably wondering, what is wait for child, or why am I using it? So first of all, wait for child is basically saying wait until leader stats is completed, or it's there until you do the next thing. So the reason why I'm doing this is because we are creating multiple leader stats now, which means it could take longer for it to run. So if we were to run these straight away when a player is added, it could could try and run it faster than the leader stats is created, and at that point it might say into your output saying that it couldn't find the leader stats folder, or there's no folder inside the leader stats, and you could be very confused thinking, what do you mean? It's right here, this is where it's creating it, but that's only because it can't find it yet, because the leader stats hasn't loaded yet. So every time I have multiple leader stats here, I always use a wait for child on the leader stats, just to make sure it properly runs it, and actually to make sure it waits until it loads, until it actually does the next thing. So we're going to need to get the level from the leader stats, which is the actual leader stats itself. So now we're going to do the same thing, but with XP. Okay, so now I'm going to actually, in my game, I want to make a pop-up frame as well. So I'm going to add that in a minute, but for now, we can just make it so that it actually runs. So I'm going to do a loop. So I'm going to do while wait do. And then now, inside of this thing, we can actually start the detection system. So if the xp.value is bigger than 100 times, the little stars times, the levels dot value. So basically what I'm saying is, if the XP is bigger than for the first level, so when the level is 1, it's like timesing 100 by 1, which, as you guys should know, is only 100, which means that every time a level goes up, it would go to 2, and then this will be 200, 300, because it's 100, so it's always timesing by the, it'll always run like that. It will always go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, but it'll go 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, and then this allows for when you hit the first, so when you level up first, when you get past the first level, it'll get harder each time to level up because you'll go up 100 XP each time. So you'll need an extra 100 each time. So basically we're saying if the XP is bigger than 100 times this, so is bigger than the amount needed, then we need to get the XP dot value equals, it means reset it bound to 0. And then we need to get the levels value. And then just like how I added it on up here, just like how I added on cash on the XP down here, we need to do the same thing by doing levels dot value plus 1. Because we wouldn't want it to be, change this up here, but we wouldn't want it to be where the levels goes to 1 every single time, because that would not be good. But now, once we have this, we can do pop-up. That is where we can actually add on to the pop-up thing. So first of all, we need to create it. So let's come down here and let's go back. And let's come into the starter GUI and let's create a screen GUI. I'm going to come down here and I'm going to name it pop-up. Let's name it pop-up GUI. And then inside, I'm going to add a frame, and I'm going to size this frame to 1. So that means across the whole screen, so it fills the whole screen. And then I'm going to do the same thing down here, and that's the X and Y. And then we're going to fill those both to 1. And then now we can insert a text label into here, and then we can size that to 1, and then we can size this to 1. And then now I'm going to come down here and check text scaled. I'm going to change it to Gotham Black, and I'm going to change the text to level up. And then I'm going to change this color to red. And then now, once we have this, we need to change the background color. Oops. Yeah, we need to change the background color to 1 on this, and we need to change the background color in the frame to 1 so that it is invisible, like the background is invisible and you can see through it. You can see, well, there's no background basically. And then now we can take this frame and we can make it visible off. And then now over here, back inside of this script, we can grab it, so we can create a we can create a variable. Let's name it pop-up, and let's do player.player GUI. So we're taking the player's GUI. So with a game, you have to start a GUI, and that's what the first thing is. That's what it starts off like. But then you can change it, but it'll be changed through the player's GUI. So anytime you're accessing something midway through a game, a lot of the time you would use the player GUI if you're accessing a GUI mid-game. So I'm going to do this, and I'm going to add wait for child, just to make sure that has loaded as well. I'm going to wait for the pop up GUI, and then I'm going to get the pop-up frame. I'm going to get the frame. So now down here, I can come down here, I can do pop-up dot visible, and then we can make this true. And then we can do wait, let's do 1.5, and then we can do pop-up dot visible equals false. Okay, so just before I test this, I'm going to actually add a wait for child down here on the levels, just to make sure that everything loads perfectly fine. So now we can come ahead and test it. So let's hit play. And now we are in the game, and now we can test. Ooh, there you go. It just had to go to level 1, but now we can run down here, and let's click all the way to 100. And then now, up here, when we get to 100, you can see it doesn't change on 100 exactly, but when we click, when we get to 100, so when I click yes, there you go, you can see now we've gone to level 2, and our XP is reset. So now we can come all the way back, and we're going to have to go to 200 this time. So look, I'll come up. And then now, as you can see, I've passed 100, but it hasn't given me another level. That's because I'm at level 2 now. So I need to get 200 XP. So let's keep coming up. And then now, when we get to 200 up here, you can see, there you go. Now I'm level 3, and we got the big level up GUI in front of us right there. Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys learned something new. Part 3 will be coming soon, and yeah. This video came out earlier than I thought it would. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys learned something new, and I will see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.